The alarm bells rang through Earth Defense Command like thunder. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in front of the massive screen that showed their solar system. Red dots moved toward them from deep space. Each dot was an enemy ship bigger than anything humans had ever built. "How many?" Jake asked his officer. 800 ships, sir. Maybe more." "They're still coming out of hyperspace," Captain Alex Turner replied. His hands shook as he read the numbers. Jake felt his stomach drop. The human fleet had only 200 ships total. Most were scattered across different star systems, protecting colonies. Earth had maybe 50 ships ready to fight. "Send the emergency signal to all colonies. Tell them we're under attack," Jake ordered. "And get me Dr. Lisa Chang on the line." The screen switched to show Dr. Chang's face. She was in her laboratory studying alien artifacts. Behind her, Jake could see strange old books and carved stones. "Admiral, I've been expecting this call," Dr. Chang said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see worry in her eyes. "The aliens are coming, Lisa. We need every weapon we have. Is there anything in those old Earth legends that can help us?" Dr. Chang was quiet for a moment. She looked at something off-screen, then back at Jake. "There might be, but you won't believe me. Try me. I need to go to Tibet, to the old sanctuary in the mountains. There are things there that have been waiting for this day." Jake wanted to ask more questions, but another alarm started ringing. More enemy ships were appearing on the screen. "Go," Jake told her. "Take whatever transport you need, but hurry." Dr. Chang nodded and cut the connection. Jake turned back to his officers. "Get me a full battle plan. Every ship we have, every weapon, every fighter pilot. We're going to make these aliens work for their victory." Meanwhile, Dr. Chang was already running toward the transport bay. She had been studying Earth's old stories for 20 years. Most people thought they were just myths. But Lisa knew better. The dragons were real. They had to be. The transport flew high over the mountains of Tibet. Snow covered everything below. Dr. Chang looked out the window and tried to remember the exact location. Her grandmother had told her stories when she was little. Stories about great caves hidden in the mountains. Stories about creatures that had protected Earth since before humans built cities. The transport landed near a cliff face that looked like solid rock. Dr. Chang got out and walked toward it. She pressed her hand against a specific stone, just like her grandmother had taught her. The rock moved. A passage opened in the mountain. Warm air flowed out, carrying a smell like old incense and something else. Something powerful. Dr. Chang walked into the darkness. Her flashlight showed a tunnel that went deep into the mountain. The walls were covered with paintings. Pictures of humans and dragons working together. Pictures of great battles against things that came from the stars. The tunnel opened into a huge cave. Dr. Chang's light could not reach the ceiling, but she could hear breathing. Slow, deep breathing that echoed off the walls. "Who enters the sanctuary?" The voice was deep and old. It spoke perfect English, but with an accent from no country on Earth. "Dr. Lisa Chang. I come because the stars are falling." A light began to glow in the cave. Not electric light, but something warm and golden. It came from the scales of the biggest creature Dr. Chang had ever seen. The dragon was the size of a building. Its eyes were older than mountains. "I am Korath," the dragon said. "I have been waiting for you, child of Chen Li." Dr. Chang gasped. Chen Li was her grandmother's name. "You knew her?" "She was the last keeper of the pact. Before she died, she told us about you, about how you would come when the sky burned with alien fire." More lights began to glow around the cave. Other dragons, some smaller, some just as huge as Korath. Dr. Chang counted 12 of them. "The pact," Dr. Chang said. "My grandmother told me stories, but you thought they were just stories," Korath finished. "Many humans do. But 3,000 years ago, when your people first learned to work metal, we made a promise. When Earth faces its darkest hour, when creatures from distant stars come to destroy your world, we will fight beside you." Above them, space was filling with enemy ships. The Zephyrian fleet moved like a swarm of angry insects. Their bioships pulsed with organic light. Each ship was a living creature merged with metal and technology. On the command ship, Marshal Vexithara studied the human defenses. His forearms moved across control surfaces that grew from the ship's living walls. "These humans multiply like bacteria," he said to his officers. "They spread to world after world, using up resources, building their ugly machines. Today we clean them from this system." "Marshal," one officer said, "our scouts report only 50 human ships defending the homeworld. This will be easy." Vexthara nodded. The Zephyrians had fought many races. Humans were young and weak. Their ships were made of dead metal and simple. Computers. The bioships would adapt to human weapons quickly. Then the slaughter would begin. Back in the cave, Korath stood up. His massive head nearly touched the ceiling. "Dr. Chang, you must return to your people. Tell them that the old alliance awakens. Tell them that dragons still remember their promises." "But how can you help? The battle is in space. You can't." Korath smiled, showing teeth like white swords. "Child, you have much to learn about dragons." The great dragon walked toward the cave entrance. The others followed. Dr. Chang hurried to keep up. Outside, the night sky was full of moving lights. The enemy fleet was getting closer. Human ships were already launching from Earth's orbital stations. Korath spread his wings. They were so big they blocked out the stars. The other dragons did the same. "Wait," Dr. Chang called. "How will I contact you?" A smaller dragon, with scales that shone like copper, landed beside her. "I am Ember," the dragon said. "I will stay with you to speak for my people to yours." Dr. Chang stared as Korath and the other dragons launched themselves into the sky. They climbed higher and higher until they disappeared among the stars. She pulled out her radio and called Admiral Morrison. "Jake, this is Lisa. I'm sending Ember to you. She'll explain everything." "Ember?" "Lisa, what are you talking about?" "Doctor." Chang looked up at the sky where alien ships and human ships were beginning to fight. Bright flashes lit up the darkness. "The dragons are coming, Jake. The dragons are coming to save us all." The space around Jupiter became a war zone. Human ships fired everything they had at the alien fleet, but it was not enough. The Zephyrian bioships moved like living animals. When human missiles hit them, the ships healed themselves in minutes. Lieutenant. Commander Ryan Brooks led his fighter squadron toward the biggest enemy ship. It looked like a giant sea creature made of metal and flesh. Organic tentacles reached out from its sides, grabbing human fighters and crushing them. "Red leader to all wings," Ryan spoke into his radio. "Target the soft spots. Look for places without armor." Ryan's fighter dove toward the bioship's belly. He fired his plasma cannons. The beams cut into the alien ship's skin. Green blood leaked out into space, but the wounds closed almost immediately. "This is impossible," Ryan's wingman said over the radio. "They heal faster than we can hurt them." Behind them, a human cruiser exploded. The Boston had been one of Earth's newest ships. Now it was just burning pieces floating in space. Captain Nina Rodriguez watched the battle from the bridge of her heavy cruiser, New York. Her ship was bigger than the fighters, with stronger weapons. But even her heavy cannons could not do lasting damage to the enemy. "Captain," her weapons officer said, "we're running low on ammunition. These things just keep healing." Nina gritted her teeth. She had fought pirates and rebels for 10 years, but nothing like this. The aliens had weapons that seemed alive. When they fired, organic projectiles grew in size as they traveled through space. On the enemy command ship, Marshal Vexithara watched the battle with satisfaction. The human ships were fast and their pilots were brave, but they could not win. Biotechnology always defeated metal and circuits. "Marshal," his sensor operator said, "we're detecting strange energy readings from the human homeworld." Vexthara looked at the display. Earth showed 12 new energy sources. They were moving upward from the planet's surface. "Probably more ships launching," Vexithara said. "It does not matter. We will destroy them all." But the energy sources were not ships. They were dragons. Korath led his brothers and sisters through Earth's atmosphere and into space. Around each dragon, the air itself seemed to bend and twist. The dragons created bubbles of atmosphere that moved with them, allowing them to breathe in the vacuum of space. Dr. Chang stood in Admiral Morrison's command center, with Ember beside her. The dragon was smaller than Korath, but still bigger than a horse. Her copper scales reflected the lights from the computer screens. "Admiral," Dr. Chang said, "I need you to listen carefully. The dragons are not just animals from old stories. They are Earth's guardians. They have technology that is older than human civilization." Jake Morrison stared at Ember. The dragon's eyes were intelligent and kind. When she spoke, her voice was musical. "Admiral Morrison," Ember said, "my people have watched humans grow from cave dwellers to star travelers. We are proud of what you have become. Now we fight together." On the main screen, new contacts appeared near the battle zone. 12 objects moving impossibly fast toward the alien fleet. "What are those?" an officer asked. "Dragons," Jake said quietly. He could hardly believe he was saying it. The first dragon reached the Zephyrian fleet. It was Korath, his ancient scales glowing with power. He flew directly at a bioship that was 3 times his size. The bioship fired its organic weapons. Living projectiles sped toward Korath, but the dragon's scales deflected them like they were nothing. Then Korath opened his mouth. The dragon fire that came out was not normal fire. It was white-hot energy that moved like liquid lightning. When it hit the bioship, the alien vessel screamed. The scream came through space itself, heard by every human and Zephyrian in the battle. The bioship began to die. Not just broken, but actually dying. Its organic parts withered and turned gray. Its metal parts cracked and fell apart. In seconds, the massive ship was just floating wreckage. "Impossible," Marshal Vexthara whispered. His bioships could adapt to any weapon. They had fought 100 different species and always won, but this dragon fire was something else entirely. More dragons reached the battle. Each one attacked a different bioship. Each one breathed that strange white fire, and each bioship died instantly. Ryan Brooks, still flying his fighter, watched in amazement. "Command, are you seeing this? Those things, those dragons, they're killing the aliens." The Zephyrian fleet began to retreat. The bioships that were still alive moved away from the dragons as fast as they could. But the dragons were faster. Ember's scales began to glow brighter in the command center. "My father speaks to me," she said. "He says the alien ships cannot adapt to dragon fire because it works on principles that existed before their evolution. It is older than their technology." Dr. Chang nodded. "That's why the pact was made so long ago. The dragons knew that someday threats would come from space, threats that only ancient power could defeat." On his command ship, Marshal Vexthara made a difficult decision. "All ships retreat to safe distance. We must study these creatures before we attack again." The Zephyrian fleet pulled back to the edge of the solar system. They had lost 30 bioships in less than an hour. 30 ships that had taken decades to grow and train. The dragons let them go. Korath spoke to his children through their mental link. "Let them run. Let them think. We have shown them that Earth is not defenseless. But this is not over." Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison was trying to understand what had just happened. "Dr. Chang, how long have you known about this?" "My family has kept the secret for generations," Lisa said. "But I only learned the full truth today. The dragons have been waiting, preparing. They knew that humanity would eventually face threats from space." Ember walked to the big screen that showed the retreating alien fleet. "Admiral, my people can protect Earth, but the aliens will return. They will bring more ships, and they will try to understand how to fight dragonfire." Jake nodded. "How long do we have?" "Days, maybe weeks," Ember replied. "But there is something else. My father has touched the mind of one of their leaders. These aliens are not evil. They are desperate. Something destroyed their homeworld. They think conquering your space is their only hope for survival." Dr. Chang felt a chill. If something was powerful enough to destroy their world and they're running from it, then we may all be in danger, Jake finished. Outside, the dragons flew back toward Earth. They had won the first battle, but Everyone knew it was just the beginning. In the darkness between stars, something worse than the Zephyrians was waiting. The War for Earth had begun, but the real enemy was still out there in the deep space, something that had destroyed whole worlds, something that made even the mighty Zephyrian fleet look like refugees instead of conquerors. Korath landed on the roof of the command center. His massive head appeared at the window. When he spoke, his voice carried both victory and warning. "We have bought you time, humans, use it wisely. The true darkness has not yet arrived." The Zephyrian fleet waited at the edge of the solar system like wounded animals. Marshal Vexithara paced back and forth on his command ship's bridge. His forearms moved nervously as he studied the battle reports. "Impossible," he said for the 100th time. "Our bioships can adapt to any weapon. We have conquered 50 star systems. How can these Earth creatures defeat us so easily?" His chief scientist, a female named Kirith, approached with new data. "Marshal, I have analyzed the energy signatures from those dragon creatures. Their fire operates on quantum principles that predate our evolutionary adaptations. Our bioships simply have no defense against it." Vexithara's eyes narrowed. "Then we must find another way. What about the human colonies? The ones without dragon protection?" "3 systems are vulnerable, Marshal. Proxima Centauri, Wolf 359, and Kepler 442. If we strike there first, we can force the humans to divide their forces." Meanwhile, on Earth, the dragons had revealed themselves to the world. Videos of Korath and his family flying through space were shown on every news channel. Some humans were afraid, but most were amazed and grateful. Commander Kyle Peterson stood on the observation deck of Earth's largest space station. Through the window, he could see Korath floating in space nearby. The ancient dragon had created an atmosphere bubble around himself and was talking to human engineers about defensive strategies. "It's still hard to believe," Kyle said to Dr. Chang, who had come up to the station. "Dragons, real dragons, and they can fly through space." Dr. Chang smiled. "They're not just flying, Kyle. They're swimming through the fabric of space itself. Their scales can manipulate gravity and electromagnetic fields. It's technology so advanced that it looks like magic." Nearby, Ember was working with human technicians to set up a communication system. Her copper scales glowed softly as she interfaced directly with the computers. "Dr. Chang," Ember said, "my father wishes to speak with you. He has learned something important about our enemies." Dr. Chang floated over to Korath. The massive dragon's eyes held ancient wisdom and current worry. "Child of Chen-Li," Korath said, "I have touched the mind of the alien marshal. What I found there troubles me greatly." "What did you see?" "These Zephyrians are not conquerors by choice, they are refugees. Their homeworld was consumed by something they call the Grey Death, a cosmic plague that corrupts all life it touches." Dr. Chang felt cold despite the warm air around Korath. "A plague that destroys worlds?" "Worse. It turns living things into extensions of itself. Entire civilizations become part of the Grey Death's hunger. The Zephyrians escaped, but barely. They think conquering human space will give them a new home far from the plague. But they're wrong?" Korath's expression grew darker. "The Grey Death follows. It is already moving through this galaxy, consuming everything in its path. The Zephyrians hope to use human worlds as a buffer, a sacrifice to slow the plague down." "Admiral," Morrison's voice crackled over the radio. "Dr. Chang, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting new attacks on our colony worlds. The aliens have split their forces." Dr. Chang looked at Korath. "Can you help the colonies?" "Some of us can go, but not all. If we leave Earth undefended, the main alien fleet might attack here. We must choose carefully." On the surface of Proxima Centauri B, Colonel Ben Wallace was leading the evacuation of New Geneva Colony. Zephyrian bioships had appeared in the system an hour ago. They were landing troops on the planet's surface. Ben's Marines fired their plasma rifles at the alien soldiers, but the Zephyrians were tough. Their bioarmor healed damage quickly, and their weapons shot living acid that ate through human defenses. "Fall back to the spaceport," Ben ordered his troops. "Civilian transports have priority. We hold the line until everyone is off planet." The Zephyrian ground troops looked like a mix of insect and mammal. They moved on 6 legs and had 2 arms for weapons. Their faces were hidden behind organic masks that filtered the air and enhanced their senses. Behind them came worse things. Biotanks that looked like giant beetles rolled across the colony's streets. They fired explosive organisms that burrowed into buildings before detonating. Ben's radio crackled. "Colonel, this is Captain Rodriguez on the New York. We're in orbit, but the alien ships are keeping us busy. We can't provide ground support." "Understood, Captain. Just keep those transports safe." Ben watched as another civilian ship lifted off, filled with colonists fleeing their homes. How many would make it out? How many worlds would fall before this war ended? Back in Earth's solar system, the Dragon Council was meeting for the first time in 1,000 years. 12 ancient dragons floated in space around Earth's moon. Each one was a different color and size, representing different aspects of draconic power. Thane, a black dragon with silver markings, spoke against helping the human colonies. The pact was made to protect Earth, not every human settlement in the galaxy. If we spread ourselves too thin, we risk losing our homeworld. Mistral, an elegant blue dragon, disagreed. Humans are Earth's children, no matter where they live. If we abandon them, we break faith with our ancient promise. Korath listened to the debate. As the eldest, his voice carried the most weight. The question is not just about our pact with humans. If the Grey Death is coming, we need allies. Every world that falls makes us weaker. Zara, a silver dragon, with telepathic abilities, suddenly stiffened. "I sense something. The alien marshal is making a decision. He's going to retreat from the colonies and regroup." Dr. Chang was listening to the council through Ember's translation. "Ask Zara what else she senses about their plans." Zara concentrated, her scales shimmering. "The marshal fears something more than defeat. He fears delay. They're running from something that's getting closer." On the Zephyrian command ship, Marshal Vexithera received the reports from the colony attacks. His forces had taken 2 worlds but lost many soldiers. The humans fought bravely, and their evacuation efforts had saved most of the civilians. "Marshal," Kirith said, "I'm detecting unusual energy patterns from the direction of our former home system. The Grey Death. It's moving faster than we calculated." Vexithara's 4 hands clenched into fists. "How long until it reaches this galaxy?" 2 years, maybe less." The marshal stared at the image of Earth on his screen. The blue planet looked so peaceful, but it was defended by creatures that defied all logic. Dragons that could fly through space and breathe fire that killed. Bioships instantly. "Kirith, what if we approached the humans diplomatically? What if we told them about the Grey Death?" "You would trust them with our greatest fear?" Vexithara was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps fear is what we should share, not war. If the Grey Death consumes this galaxy, none of us will survive. On Earth, Korath made his decision. 3 of us will go to help the human colonies. The rest will stay to defend Earth. But first, we must try something that has never been done before." "What?" Dr. Chang asked. "We must speak directly to the alien leader. Dragon to alien. Mind to mind. If they truly fear something worse than us, perhaps we can find another way to end this war." Above them, the stars looked peaceful. But somewhere, in the darkness between galaxies, the Grey Death was moving closer, a cosmic plague that had already destroyed countless worlds, and it was hungry for more. The attacks on the human colonies had been swift and brutal. 3 star systems fell to the Zephyrians in a single week. Millions of humans were dead, captured, or missing. The lucky ones had escaped on evacuation ships. Colonel Ben Wallace sat in the medical bay of a refugee transport ship. His left arm was in a biocast, healing from Zephyrian acid burns. Around him, injured Marines and civilians tried to process what they had lost. "Colonel," a young Marine named Danny said, "will we ever get our worlds back?" Ben looked out the window at the stars. "I don't know, son, but we're not giving up." The transport was heading back to Earth along with hundreds of other refugee ships. The colonies of Proxima Centauri and Wolf 359 were gone. The Zephyrians had taken them completely, turning human cities into breeding grounds for their biotechnology. On Earth, the Dragon Council was divided. Some dragons wanted to launch an immediate counterattack. Others believed they should focus on defending their home world. Thane, the Black Dragon, was angry. We should never have let any dragons leave Earth. Now 3 of our kind are trapped in alien space, and for what? To save human colonies that were already doomed? Dr. Chang tried to keep the peace. Thane, those dragons are buying time for millions of human refugees to escape. Every life saved matters. To you, perhaps. But if Earth falls, all human lives end anyway. Korath remained calm despite the arguments around him. The ancient dragon had lived through many crises, but none quite like this. The enemy was not just powerful, but desperate. Desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. Ember approached Dr. Chang with troubling news. The refugees are bringing stories about the aliens. They're not just conquering our worlds, they're changing them, growing things that shouldn't exist. What kind of things? Living buildings, organic factories, and something else. The colonists say the aliens are preparing defenses against something that's coming from deep space. Dr. Chang felt a chill. The gray death that Korath had seen in the alien marshal's mind. It was real, and it was getting closer. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian-controlled systems, Marshal Vexithara was facing his own crisis. The captured human worlds were useful, but they were not enough. His scientists estimated that the Gray Death would reach this galaxy in 18 months. They needed more time, more space, and more resources. Marshal, Kirith reported, our breeding programs on the captured worlds are proceeding well. We've grown 50 new bioships and 10,000 soldiers. But it's still not enough to face what's coming. Vexithara studied the tactical displays. Earth remained unconquered, protected by its dragon guardians. The human fleet was scattered but rebuilding, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, an enemy that made both humans and Zephyrians look like insects was approaching. Kirith, the Marshal said slowly, what if we've been thinking about this wrong? What do you mean? What if the dragons and humans could help us fight the Gray Death? What if we allied with them instead of conquering them? Kirith's 4 eyes widened. Alliance with primitives? The War Council would call it treason. The War Council isn't here, and these primitives have weapons that can destroy our bioships in seconds. Maybe it's time to reconsider who the primitives really are. On Earth, Zara, the telepathic dragon, was deep in meditation. Her silver scales glowed softly as she reached across space with her mind. She was trying to contact the 3 dragons who had gone to help the human colonies. I can sense them, she told Korath. Flare, Storm, and Granite are alive. But they're hiding. The aliens have surrounded the systems they're in. Can they escape? Perhaps, but they've found something important. Something the aliens are trying to hide. Korath's eyes glowed with interest. What have they found? Zara concentrated harder, her scales brightening. Ships. Huge ships hidden behind the gas giant in the Wolf system. Not Zephyrian ships, something else, something old and dark. Dr. Chang overheard the conversation. Could they be Gray Death ships? No, Zara said with certainty. These are different. They feel empty, like they once held life but now hold only hunger. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. The Zephyrians weren't just running from the Gray Death. They were running toward something. They knew about these dark ships, and they were trying to reach this galaxy first. Captain Nina Rodriguez was in command of the rebuilt human fleet. Her ship, the New York, had been repaired and upgraded with new weapons based on dragon technology. The weapons couldn't duplicate dragon fire, but they were more effective against bioships than anything humans had built before. Captain, her sensor operator said, we're receiving a transmission from the edge of the system. It's from the alien flagship. Nina frowned. The Zephyrians want to talk? It seems so, ma'am. The message is addressed to both you and the dragon leadership. Nina looked out her window at Korath, who was floating nearby. The ancient dragon's scales pulsed with a pattern that meant he was thinking deeply. Put the transmission through, Nina ordered. Marshal Vexthara appeared on the screen. His arms were spread in what human xenobiologists had identified as a Zephyrian gesture of peaceful intent. Human Captain Rodriguez and Dragon Lord Korath, the Marshal said, I request a meeting. There are things you must know about the danger coming to this galaxy. Korath's voice rumbled through the ship's communication system. Marshal Vexithara, why should we trust you after you attacked our worlds? Because, Dragon Lord, we are all about to face an enemy that makes our conflict look like a children's game. The Grey Death is not the only threat coming. There are others. Older threats. Hungrier threats. Dr. Chang, listening from the command center on Earth, felt her blood turn cold. Admiral Morrison, we need to hear what he has to say. Admiral Jake Morrison nodded reluctantly, but we meet on neutral ground. And we bring dragons. The meeting was arranged to take place on a small asteroid between Earth and the Zephyrian fleet. Both sides agreed to send only small ships and a limited number of representatives. As the human shuttle approached the asteroid, Dr. Chang could see the Zephyrian transport arriving from the other direction. It looked like a living creature, with organic hull that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ember was with Dr. Chang, along with Admiral Morrison and Captain Rodriguez. On the asteroid's prepared surface, they would meet face-to-face with their enemies for the first time. Dr. Chang, Ember said quietly, my father warns that we should be careful. The Marshal's mind is full of fear but also desperate hope. Desperate beings can be unpredictable. As the shuttle touched down on the asteroid, Dr. Chang wondered if they were about to make peace or walking into a trap. Either way, they were about to learn the truth about what was coming from the dark spaces between the stars. The war for Earth was about to become something much bigger and much more terrifying. The asteroid meeting place was small and cold. Artificial atmosphere generators created a bubble of air where humans and Zephyrians could meet safely. Dr. Chang stood beside Admiral Morrison and Captain Rodriguez, with Ember's warm presence nearby. Marshal Vexithara arrived with two other Zephyrians. Up close, the aliens looked less frightening than Dr. Chang had expected. Their bioarmor was actually quite beautiful, with patterns that shifted like living art. But their four eyes showed exhaustion and fear. Thank you for coming, Vexithara said in perfect English. I know you have little reason to trust us. Admiral Morrison's voice was cold. You attacked our worlds. Millions of humans are dead or homeless because of you. Yes, Vexithara said, simply. And I am sorry for that. But if you will listen, you will understand why we had no choice. Ember's scales glowed softly. My father says the Marshal's words are true. He truly believes he had no choice. Vexithara activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red areas marked the progress of something moving from the outer rim toward the core. This is the Grey Death, the Marshal explained. It has consumed 12 star systems in the past 50 years. Every world it touches becomes part of its hunger. Every living being becomes an extension of its will. Dr. Chang studied the display. It's like a cosmic cancer. Worse, cancer only destroys. The Grey Death converts. It turns entire civilizations into tools for spreading itself further. Captain Rodriguez pointed at the display. Why didn't you just tell us this from the beginning? We could have worked together. Kirith, the Zephyrian scientist, answered. Because we thought you were too primitive to help. We were wrong. Your dragon allies have power we don't understand. Vexithara continued the explanation. But the Grey Death is not our only problem. There is something else. Something that has been following us across the galaxy. The holographic display changed, showing massive dark shapes moving through space. They were bigger than planets, and they moved with purpose. We call them the harvest ships, Vexithara said. They belong to a species that fed the Grey Death for millions of years. They consume entire solar systems to fuel their ships. They have been hunting us since we escaped our homeworld. Admiral Morrison felt sick. How many are coming? 50 ships, each one capable of destroying a star system. They will arrive in 6 months. Ember's scales pulsed with alarm. This is why my father has been troubled. He sensed something vast and hungry approaching. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent transmission from Earth. Admiral Morrison activated his communicator. "Admiral," the voice said, "this is Command. We're receiving distress signals from the outer system. Something big just came out of hyperspace near Pluto." On the display, a new red dot appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was moving toward the inner planets at incredible speed. "One harvest ship," Vexathara said grimly. "They sent a scout to find us." Dr. Chang made a decision that would change everything. "Marshal, we need to work together right now. Can your ships fight these harvest ships?" "Not effectively. Our biotechnology was designed to fight other organic species. The harvest ships are something else entirely." Ember spoke up. "But dragonfire might work. It affects the fundamental forces that hold matter together. If the harvest ships are vulnerable to anything, it would be dragonfire." Captain Rodriguez was already moving toward her shuttle. "We need to get back to our ships, Admiral. We have to coordinate our defenses." As the human and Zephyrian representatives rushed back to their fleets, the scout harvest ship was approaching Earth. It was the size of a small moon, black as space itself, with organic-looking growths covering its surface. Korath and the other dragons felt the ship's presence like a weight on their souls. This was an enemy older and more terrible than anything they had faced before. "All dragons, prepare for battle," Korath commanded. "This enemy feeds on life itself. We must not let it reach Earth." The combined human and Zephyrian fleets moved to intercept the harvest ship. It was the strangest alliance in galactic history. Two species that had been at war an hour before, now fighting side by side against a common enemy. Commander Kyle, Peterson watched from his space station as hundreds of ships converged on the alien vessel. Human cruisers flew alongside Zephyrian bioships. Dragons soared through space between them like living stars. The harvest ship fired first. Its weapons were unlike anything anyone had seen, beams of dark energy that seemed to eat light itself. When they hit human or Zephyrian ships, the vessels simply stopped. Dead in space, drained of all power. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Admiral Morrison ordered. "Don't let those beams touch you." The dragons attacked together. 12 streams of white-hot dragon fire converged on the harvest ship's hull. Where the fire hit, the alien vessel's black surface began to crack and burn. "It's working," Dr. Chang said from the command center. "The dragon fire is hurting it." But the harvest ship fought back. Organic tentacles erupted from its surface, reaching for the dragons. When the tentacles touched Mistral, the blue dragon screamed in pain. The tentacles were draining her life force. Korath roared in anger and breathed fire at the tentacles holding his sister. The white flames severed the organic connections, freeing Mistral. But she was badly weakened. The battle raged for hours. Human and Zephyrian ships worked together, using their combined knowledge to find the harvest ship's weak points. The dragons provided the only weapons that could actually damage the alien vessel. Finally, Korath made a desperate decision. The ancient dragon flew directly at the harvest ship's core, gathering all his power for one massive blast of dragon fire. "Father, no!" Ember cried from the command center. Dr. Chang watched in horror as Korath disappeared into the heart of the enemy ship. For a moment, everything was silent. Then light exploded from inside the harvest ship. Pure white dragon fire erupted from every crack and opening in the alien vessel. The ship convulsed once, twice, then went dark forever. Korath emerged from the wreckage, his scales dim with exhaustion. But he was alive, and the enemy scout was destroyed. Marshal Vexathara's voice came over the communication channels. "Dragon Lord Korath, your courage has saved us all." But this was only one ship. 49 more are coming. Dr. Chang looked at the tactical display showing the approaching harvest fleet. They had 6 months to prepare for the real battle. 6 months to turn former enemies into true allies. "Marshal," Admiral Morrison said, "we need to pool all our knowledge. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical advantage. Human ingenuity, Zephyrian biotechnology, and dragon power. Together, Vexathera nodded. Agreed. And we must evacuate the civilian populations, both human and Zephyrian. If we fail, at least some of our people might survive. As the combined fleets began to work together, Captain Steve Harrison took command of a new joint task force. His ship, the rebuilt Terra's Pride, became the flagship for the most unusual military alliance in galactic history. Dr. Chang worked with Zephyrian scientists to understand their biotechnology. Human engineers collaborated with Dragon Wisdom to create new weapons. Former enemies shared their deepest secrets because they all faced extinction. Ember became the bridge between all three species, translating not just words but concepts and emotions. Her copper scales glowed constantly as she facilitated understanding between minds that had evolved on different worlds. The real war was about to begin. Not a war of conquest, but a war for survival. Earth had become the center of a galactic alliance that would either save 3 civilizations or watch them all burn together. In deep space, the main Harvest fleet continued its approach. 50 world-killer ships carrying an enemy that had devoured countless civilizations. They had never been stopped before. But they had never faced dragons loyal to Earth, fighting alongside humans who refused to give up, and Zephyrians who had finally found something worth protecting instead of just escaping. The galaxy's last hope rested in the most unlikely alliance of all time,